Hola amigos, me llamo Adam Clery, here to say that we can actually read. We've seen all the comments being like, when the hell are you doing a video about Spain, about how they've been so good, about how they're so exciting, about how they might go and win the whole bloody thing? And to answer that question, we are doing a video about Spain ahora. Right, okay, so you are either Spanish or just interested in what the Spanish are doing. You know them, you love them, they play tiki-taka, they're a bunch of little passing nerds, they have 900 touches per match, and they eventually just sort of like knit you into submission. But not anymore! Spain are very exciting, and they love to run with the ball instead of passing it now, and they are giving us easily the most exciting team to watch at this tournament, in my opinion. Now, normally I would be like, well, this is the team that's carried them through the tournament so far, but as you no doubt know, they made sweeping changes for their third and final group game before reverting to this exact 11 again for the Georgia match. Now, we will talk about that specifically a little later on, because hidden within that, something quite clever. Now, it's got all the hallmarks of like a classic Spanish side. You've got Rodri in the middle. You've got 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗍, who can invert to give you dominance in the middle. It's got forwards who want to kind of get inside and can run with the ball. And Álvaro Morata, who's just always there, isn't he? But what sets this Spanish team apart from all the others that have come before it in recent years is A, how they are using Yamal and Nico Williams, and also Ruiz and Pedri. Because where previous Spanish sides would have racked up pass after pass after pass, and I'll be showing you how one of the fullbacks was moving into the middle and they were controlling the games, that is not what is happening here. This is a team that wants to move the ball freely and quickly, vertically up the pitch, and hit you where it hurts. And probably the best place to illustrate this is in the heat map of Fabian Ruiz here. This is a Spanish central midfielder. If this was a Xavi or an Iniesta or a David Silva, any of the players we normally associate with this position, you would see this heat map being far deeper. Yes, they'd be doing loads in the final third, but they'd be going to collect the ball from all these different regions. And instead, you can see he does do that, but also he spends so much time in the final third, and crucially, not even just on his side, across the entire width of the pitch. And likewise, I'll show you Pedri's, he was involved a lot less, but you can see there's the same sort of horizontal movement across from right to left, moving freely across that entire zone of the pitch. And that is what makes this team tick. Because with this, they're trying to do two things, right? First of all, they're trying to find the space, get on the ball themselves, and make things happen. But secondly, because they're able to drift out of sort of their natural sides, they can pull defenders away to leave the wide attackers in one-on-one situations. And when they're in those, that's when this Spanish system comes to life. Or lives la vida loca, to use the natural term. Now, this isn't from the Georgia game, it's from the Italy game, which is, of course, a much greater test. This is every single successful take on that Spanish side completed in that game. Every time a Spanish player got the ball at his feet and thought, screw it, I'm going to take this guy on, and every single time that worked. Now, this is a lot. Take my word for it at this stage, but this is a lot. What's really absolutely mind-blowing is I'll show you all the unsuccessful ones they had at the same time. And the game is just constantly littered with examples of Spanish players attempting to run past their opponents. Not pass it around in nice little triangles, to just directly go at somebody. And it's this sort of team-wide ethos of being this direct that other sides just currently don't really know how to live with. Like in the first minutes against Italy, he can see Williams gets the ball. There's no thought about coming back inside or finding a numerical advantage. He just believes in himself, in his ability to beat that defender. And Spain should be up in the first couple of minutes. And even when there's not a direct one-on-one opportunity, Spain turn the ball over. They get a fairly good counter-attacking situation. And again, there's no sort of inclination to wait for support, to get extra men. They just go and go and go, and they should score again. And between Williams and Yamal, they've arguably got the two best players at the entire tournament for doing this. Like, Yamal gets the ball against Italy here, he gets a half turn, there's 3 Italian players around him, but the instruction is not pass that back into the midfield. The instruction is skin these lads, which he does in quite spectacular fashion. He burns past 3 of them, creates yet another chance for Morata. While obviously the goal in that game was a bit of a comedy of Italian errors, where does it come from if you just rewind ever so slightly? 𝗕𝗶𝗴𝗍, he's up here supporting Williams, but all he doesn't even offer him a pass. He just tries to take this defender away to give Williams a one-on-one opportunity, which he gleefully takes advantage of, puts the cross cross in, and the next thing you know, it's in the back of the net. This Spain team, if I've not made the point already, likes to run. And you can't really stress enough just what a staggering change of philosophy this is for a nation like Spain. Like, if we just go back to the last World Cup, they were averaging something like 75% possession a game, and they were attempting something like 16 or 17 take-ons per match, and yet we just jump forward a few short years to this tournament. The possession stats have fallen off a cliff. It's like 55, 56% now, but the attempted take-on numbers are through the roof. They are the leading team at this tournament for trying to run past an opponent. Like, they've not just brought in this hugely different new system, they're really good at it. And if you just want to go through the numbers themselves, they tell an amazing story about the system of this team. Like, they're second for the total number of progressive carries in the whole tournament. That's any time a player gets the ball and just sort of runs with it at least 10 yards. That's massively, massively up on what it was at previous tournaments. They lead the tournament in terms of the chances created directly from a take-on. That's massively up from the previous tournament. Like, Yamal's been getting a load of the headlines so far because, well, fair enough, he's like 6 years old. Anything he does would be considered interesting. But if we look at his tournament heat map so far, that's not where you'd normally assume you'd see a young attacking player. Like, there should be stuff in this central area where he's making things happen. But almost everything he's done has been right out on the touchline. And yes, of course, obviously he dribbles in field as and when those runs taken, but he's never looking to receive the ball in that position. Spain are just so determined to stretch their opponents. And this determination to keep repeatedly taking on your opponents, to exploit any space they leave, to use your midfielders, to drag defenders out, to create that space when it isn't normally there, it's all well and good, but it does leave Spain, with Rodri aside, a very sort of technically good but physically slight team. And when that's kind of always been the case with Spain, they've never physically dominated their opponents. The amount of possession they had meant that normally they were in a good enough position to not have to worry too much about the defensive aspect of the game. But as we've already seen, those possession stats have dropped off the cliff. They now are required to really worry about what the opposition might do with the ball. They've got like a perfectly on-brand system for winning it back. Like, just to show you the potential pitfalls of a team like this, Spain are right at the bottom right now for the percentage of the ground duels they have won in this tournament. So they get sort of in a coming together with an opponent, they're losing it a lot more than they're currently winning it. But the reason, if you've watched Spain's 3 games, you haven't really noticed them getting physically bullied like this. It certainly doesn't feel like they're losing control in that respect, is because they're also at the very top for the total number of ball recoveries they've made. Basically, the pace and the determination and the direct running that they're using in attack has also become like their best defensive weapon. Like, if you can match them in their run to the ball, they're not likely to win it, but they are beating so many teams in that foot race. They're getting there before the defender does. And that's also made them the most high-pressing team at this European Championships by a pilas mila. At the time of me recording this, which is before the sort of England round of games, right, they have got nearly double the number of turnovers in the opposing third. And that's not because they're structured in a way to win the ball back up there, just because they're so intense with their running that these opportunities are just sort of coming up. Like, I'd probably say this is the best example of their quote-unquote high press. Like, you'll see they're not particularly locked on. There's no real sort of intent to force the opposition into a particular area. It's just that that's a slightly loose ball, and Spain are so good at getting on slightly loose balls. And this is something you imagine will become a real weapon for them as the tournament goes on, because as legs get stretched, as injuries happen, as squads get rotated, as teams try and snuff out what it is Spain are directly trying to do, having this in their back pocket as a good little chance creation tool could be invaluable. But there is also one very sneaky, one very clever thing that Spain have already done in this tournament, right? Because we're showing you all these little maps so far, and there's a lot of running required from the 2 central midfielders. They're all the attackers. They're constantly bombing up and down. That's a huge requirement on their fitness and on their legs. They've already taken a step to fix this. This is every single player at the European Championships ranked by how many minutes they've played in the tournament. Now, because Spain took the liberty of resting almost their entire squad for their 3rd group game, but also because they're very comfortable using their bench and changing players to keep them fresh, you have to scroll down to 92nd in this list to find a single member of that squad. In fact, despite them going out at the earliest possible opportunity, there are several members of the Scotland team that have played more minutes in this tournament than Spain's best players. Now, what does that guarantee you? Well, absolutely 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗘, which I think is how you're supposed to say that according to Google Translate, but it certainly is a smart step to take and might be a real difference maker. Now, can I get away with any single video on Spain without talking about Rodri for a moment? No, I absolutely cannot. This is his pass map from the Italy game, which of course is very useful because you've got a team full of people who just want to run. Having a brick in the center of the pitch who was willing to pass it does kind of balance things out a bit. The 90 minutes he played, he was in front of his back four, he was covering into these channels, he was helping push up when they were in good possession, and he misplaced the ball only twice. But what makes Rodri so important to all this isn't the sort of number of passes he's doing, not the fact he's keeping it neat and tidy, or he's just like the enormous Spanish dad in a team full of excitable kids. It's that he's got an unbelievable quality of game reading, and his passing range is so underrated. I'll just go back to the start of this video, right? We talked about how Ruiz and Pedri, their job was to move horizontally across this pitch, right? Now you can imagine Rodri as the single pivot in the team. 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏𝗧 doesn't come across to help. He's in there on his own. He becomes the magnet for an opposition press. And the one thing about this Spanish side, not the runs past people, not all the take-ons, not all of that stuff, that could take them all the way to the latter stages of this tournament and beat any team that's put in front of them, is moments like this. Rodri's taken up a position in the dead center of the pitch, and you can see here from the movement of the Italians, they are actively trying to press Spain. They think this is an opportunity to win that ball back. Now, if we pause it right here, the only option open to him in front is Pedri, but that is not a pass you want to play. Yes, it would break one or two lines of pressure, but when he gets it, he's only going to have to go backwards, sideways, or lose the ball. Now, 99% of midfielders would look at that, assess it correctly, and be like, I need to turn around, I need to go the other way, nothing is happening here. But because Rodri is so good, and because the two players in front of him are moving horizontally almost constantly, he knows he doesn't need to pass it to Pedri, he needs to pass it where Pedri is going. And this happens so fast, not a single Italian player picks up on it, but he actually rolled it to this side of the defender. Pedri is able to keep his run going, gets onto it, it is inch perfect, and all of a sudden Spain have blown that press wide open. And you know what, since we've got this clip up, we might as well talk about the other thing that's making them really good, right? Nothing comes of this move. It breaks down, Pedri can't find the pass, it comes to nothing. Italy have a great counter-attacking situation on, except no, they don't. Now, if you've never heard of this term, you might need to go and look it up, but this is a little thing called rest defense, right? It's something that Ten Hag ended up going on about loads because Man United were conceding loads because they didn't have any of it. It's basically when you are in an attacking scenario, when you have the ball, what are your players who are out of possession doing to stop a counter? Like, think about it this way. You're playing football, your teammate has the ball, they're trying to make something happen. You're not going to get involved in the play. You're not going to catch up or make some kind of overlapping run. Your brain should instead be looking at the opposition and thinking, hang on, if we lose it here, where do I need to be? And this little sequence isn't just an example of Rodri having this great vision or the horizontal movement of these Spanish number 8s. It's a great example of their rest defense as well, because as soon as Italy turn this ball over, there are 3 Spanish players who spring into life and stop any kind of counter-attack. And so you take that, you take all the movement, you take all the take-ons, you take all the turnovers in the final third. You have got a team that are screaming out to you that running is the new passing. And just as an aside here, we've already done a video on Germany where we talked about how they might have the most effective looking system, but big tests still remained of it, and then they went and played Switzerland and just didn't quite look right all of a sudden because a more organized team had figured them out. This is a Spanish side that has comfortably beaten Croatia, that has beaten Italy, and then rotated every single player practically and won the 3rd game of the group. Like, I understand that people don't think these are a fancied nation, that the stars of yesteryear are all gone and it's got players in there that you would never expect to go far in a tournament. But from where I'm sitting right now, which it happens to include watching England games, this is the best thing going on at this tournament. Will they win it? I don't know. Like, anything could happen, but it's going to be exciting to find out. But yes, anyway, I am absolutely baking under these lights, so I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have enjoyed this video, and let's say, hypothetically speaking, you're a native Spanish person who's never seen the channel before, please do consider subscribing to us here on FourFourTwo, because the further you go in the tournament, the more we are going to talk about you. And I would really, truly, honestly, I'm not just saying this because it's my job, right? I'd hate for you to miss that. It would make me sad. Also, more importantly, the comment section is right there. So if you want to just flood it with actual Spanish, that'll confuse the hell out of our regular subscribers. So go on and knock yourselves out. You can get me across all of the socials at Adam Clery, Clery. The 442 socials are in the corner of the video. The magazine is available the next time you're in an airport in the UK, I presume. And until next time, or until these go and demolish somebody in the round of 16, I'll see you soon. Hasta la vista, baby. I heard that somewhere. Bye.